This video is going to be about ossification, crystallization, and building structures in your life. So this is working off the karma video, where we understand karma as being an energy that you put out, and what you receive from that energy that was externalized. But this would come from an internal level first. That's why it's important to be in tune with your insecurities. That way, when you push your intentions externally, it's purified, it's known, and there won't be too much misunderstandings and mistakes to disrupt what you were trying to do in the first place. So there needs to be like awareness and whatnot, and the purity of intentions, and a lot of times experience, like wisdom too. So, anyways, with that being said, this falls into the crystallization process, because once you're putting energy out there, then you can begin the crystallization process. And this is important because the crystallization process is where things become more stable. It builds stability in your life. So, for the astrology people, this would be related to Saturn energy. Saturn represents crystallization. It represents the ability to to build structures. And these structures are built based upon the acknowledgement of the patterns, the habitual patterns that you're actually putting out externally. And therefore, this now created some sort of structure in one's life. So, crystallization. Crystallization is a process that the earth undergoes, and it creates literally these gems. Now, scientists also do repeat the process. But gemstones are formed from some sort of a liquid plasma. I think it's liquid plasma that's in the earth, and it pretty much cools along with like the water and stuff that it gets joined with. And then that process, from the going from like extreme temperatures like heat to coolness, it creates these crystals, especially because it keeps happening over and over and over again in the same place, until it finally like pops up from the earth's crust. I think it's the crust. Y'all know what I'm trying to say, all right? So that's what forms crystals and gemstones. So, boom, by default, gemstones and crystals are related to the energy of responsibility, because you're actually trying to tune in with the natural way of being of the earth to gain structure in one's life. That's how I see it. So that's why I value crystals and gemstones, because literally I'm matching my energy with the way that this was created. This exists, this has structure. So if someone wants to gain structure in their life, especially structure that they're cognizant of and not like impurified, not knowing of the self type of like, how did I get myself into this type shit. Nah, this shit has like, it's pure. Like, it's just pure. Now there is impurities in crystals too, so that goes to show that impurity is normal. It's just things just have to be balanced. So now, in terms of ossification undergoes the same process like that this crystal has. Within our body, we have a skeletal system, right? This skeletal system is developed from a process called bone ossification. And ossification is basically like, so first of all, when we're young, before our skeletal system is fully built, we undergo that type of ossification system. But in general, humans undergo a structuring, breaking down, and then restructuring of the body. And the bones, or the skeletal system, is what gives structure to the body itself. and then the muscles go on top of it, and then the skin and all that other stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I know there's nerves and all that stuff. I get it. The central nervous system will be another topic. But in terms of the structure that one gains in their life on a deep level, the body um is going to come first. Like, you'll notice that people who have back problems, oftentimes they will have problems externally with having like structure in their life. They may be a little bit too Sagittarian in nature or too Aquarian in nature. Now Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn too. So boom, for people who don't really know astrology that well, I'm trying to say like these are people that may have trouble with sticking to things and actually like building a brand or building some sort of um, structure for whatever they're doing. So they may kind of drift a little too much. I'm a drifter. I ain't gonna lie. But if somebody ever challenged me, like, oh, you don't ever really have structure in your life, I'm gonna come after. Trust me, I have proof that I have structure in my life. It's just this, my shit just be very, very deep. In terms of everything I do, to me is all the same shit. It just be different analogies as to how I express it, but it's the same underlying shit. But anyways, that's besides the point. Like, what I'm trying to say is, back to ossification process. Ossification is a process in which the bone breaks down into like plasma, right? And then the body, the blood and stuff is able to give the plasma nutrients and whatnot, and then that plasma is able to rebuild back into like cartilage, and the cartilage forms back into like the bone, the structure, just like this. So it's like it's the same type of process that undergoes extremes to restructure itself. So then we know that the basis of building structure in one's life is to actually undergo extreme conditions. And if you refuse to undergo those extreme conditions, and if you decide to continue to escape those extreme conditions, then one cannot expect to build any type of new structure in their life. Because by default, if we know that crystals undergo extremes, they go from extremely hot liquid to extremely cold liquid to crystallization, which is hard. I mean, this changed temperature and it changed elements. It went literally from liquid to earth. So by default, okay, so that's one example. And then we know we have a bone ossification process, which is basically like liquid plasma going to cartilage energy, going to straight up bone structure. That's extreme changes, and this energy keeps going up, breaking down. This is like stem cells basically and all that shit. That's all a restructuring process based upon some type of extreme conditions being experienced. So by default, we know that if we want to rebuild ourselves, that we have to go through the extremes. We have to be willing to go through the breakdown. If you're not willing to go to breakdown, then you cannot expect to be successful. You just don't, because you're too comfortable. If you're too comfortable, you can't friggin' build up. You can't. Now, I'm not saying jump into any type of situation where you're going to experience extremes, because that's not going to help you build any structure either. But it's required to go through the extremes in order to build structure in one's life. But responsibility is still necessary. So that's what this video is about, short and sweet. So yeah, dose, ha. No, it's like